Are we still waiting for Zoom to fire up? Okay, you guys will tell me when. Never actually saw what this says. Oh, it has Pete's name on it.
Oh, they give a new one every year.
Oh, it's not very well.
Oh.
Whoever put that on there. I imagine people will continue to trickle in. Well, we're on the screen. I don't know. Did you? Oh, they weren't for everybody?
You can have mine.
You don't want, we'll share. Did you get one, Maris?
Sure, you can have another one of mine.
I have two too. Oh, and there's more over there. Bear with us while they get the Zoom fired up so others can join us remotely. If you haven't already and you'd like to speak during public comment, we'd ask that you please fill out a card just so we have an idea of how many people are speaking. Uh-oh.
Just for this one for the public, guys. Nothing wrong with the system.
Oh, okay. We can't see those beautiful renderings behind it.
I mean, I can leave, and then what do I do when we do?
Just say join a meeting. And do you have the agenda?
No, Sean sent me a link.
So just log in
Oh,
to this
okay.
webinar and this passcode.
The ID is
There's more
Oh,
AV
817.
issues in this town than
7646
in the heart of Silicon Valley.
8782.
76468. What?
8782.
Okay.
Oh wait, you have to put a passcode.
Oh,
That's your name. Okay,
should I
Steve.
put SSA?
Sure.
Okay. Join,
Yeah.
and then we'll get the password.
Okay. 242017.
I'm glad we didn't do this during.
Yeah.
And it's nice to meet you.
It's
in
nice to meet you
person.
too.
Failed to detect you. I don't need a microphone, do I?
No, in fact, turn off your video and your audio. Okay, so it's off.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'll see you in it, and I'll
Oh,
promote you to
these.
be a panelist.
All right.
Okay,
you
and
can
then
just
I can
turn it
share my screen at
right
that
around.
point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. When will it display on our screens? Later? Oh, okay. Okay.
You're not charging anymore. You're on battery. It goes to your so maybe just watch the battery.
I am at 94%. Should be good.
What's that? I haven't been out there. We did have to drain the pool, so but from the other night, it was quite. We got 2 inches the other night. Yeah. Yeah. Tonight. Today was weird. It was sunny at times. It was going sideways at times. It was coming hot, straight down. It's like a monsoon. All right, we're 8 minutes in. We're ready? All right. I will get to use this gavel that has Pete Daly's name on it. I'd like to open the February 6, 2025 joint meeting of the Los Altos Planning Commission and the Los Altos Historical Commission. Welcome to members of the public, staff, and to our friends from the Historical Commission. Great to have you here. Taylor, could you please establish a quorum for both commissions?
Yes, let's start with the Planning Commission. Commissioner Disney,
Here.
Commissioner Mensinger.
Use your microphone.
She's absent. Commissioner Steinle,
Here.
Commissioner Ahi,
Here.
Commissioner Roche, or
Here.
Vice Chair Roche,
Here.
Chair Benenato.
Here?
We have a quorum with Commissioner Mensinger absent. Let's move on to the Historical Commissioners. Commissioner Atkinson, Commissioner McGuire-Negus, absent, okay. Commissioner Adams, Commissioner Coe. We have a quorum with Commissioner McGuire-Negus absent.
Great, thank you. Our first order of business is to receive comments from members of the public only on matters that are not on the published agenda. Just a reminder for everybody, we can take public comments only from people here in chambers. Anyone who wishes to speak about an item that's on the agenda should wait until the time comes for that. And we'd ask anyone who'd like to speak to please fill out a speaker card, which makes recording of the minutes easier for staff. Please remember for public comments that the commissioners and staff are not allowed to respond to you, discuss your comment, or act on any matters that are not included in the published agenda. So are there any public comments for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will close public comment for items not on the agenda. Let's move on to the consent calendar for the Planning Commission. This is a regular meeting of the Planning Commission with our guests being the Historical Commission. We have one item on our consent calendar tonight, which are the minutes from the December 5th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting. Are there any questions from the Planning Commission?
I did find one typo, just a small typo on the third page of the minutes. Motion by, I think it's, let's see, Beninato, second by Steinle to recommend the Los Altos City Council recommend the City Council adopt. I think they just put the words in twice. So it's a
Okay.
small typo.
Yeah, in general, I would just send those to staff beforehand, but so staff, you guys see the typo? All right, we'll get that corrected. I will entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, a motion from Commissioner Disney, seconded by Commissioner Ahi. Let's take a vote.
Commissioner Disney,
Aye.
Commissioner Steinle,
Yes.
Commissioner Ahi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Roche,
Yes.
Chair Beninato.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right. So we have one public hearing tonight, and that is item 2 on the agenda regarding the historical alteration permit and the design review permit for the Los Altos Library patio at 13 South San Antonio Road. Our public hearing procedure is to receive staff's oral report, which supplements the written report that's included in the packet. Then the applicant will have up to 10 minutes to present. Commissioners may then ask clarifying questions of staff or the applicant, and we will separate that into the Historical Commission first and then the Planning Commission second. And then after the commissioner questions to staff and the applicant, we will receive public comments on staff's recommendation. After public comments, we'll move on to commission discussion and votes for the 2 independent commissions. And in this joint meeting, the Historical Commission is first reviewing the historical alteration permit, and then the Planning Commission will be reviewing the design review permit. Because we have a large group of commissioners and a large audience, I'd like to ask you all for your help with 2 things. The first is we're typically pretty informal in these commission meetings, but given the complexity of this, I'd like to ask that the commissioners please raise your hands and be recognized before you blurt something out or respond to somebody. That would be great. And then secondly, I'd ask the public to, it gets really difficult if people are talking or booing or clapping or anything else. So we'd ask that you remain silent during the deliberations, other than if you're speaking at the podium. So the other thing is we want to make sure everybody feels comfortable providing input, and we want to have an environment where we get input from everybody who's involved, and we just appreciate your help with that tonight. So I'd like to invite staff to present item 2. I think will it be Sean tonight?
Yes.
Okay, take it away, Sean.
Good evening, Chairs Cohen, Beninato, and Commissioners. My name is Sean Gallegos, a Senior Planner in the Planning Division. The project before you tonight is a request for a historic alteration permit and a design review permit for a new library courtyard. The project site is located within the Civic Center complex along the north side of the library.
Excuse me one second. We're not seeing anything on our displays. Should we be seeing something? No? So that's our display up there? Okay, just wanted to double check. Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
The proposed project will remove the existing trellis, patio, and reorient the pathway on the north side of the library to create an outdoor courtyard area. The courtyard will include hardscaping, pathways, landscaping, multi-purpose seating, and gathering areas with bench seating, chairs with tables, and a pergola over a portion of the courtyard, all enclosed within a cordon steel, wood, and glass fencing. The furniture selections, staff must note, are referenced in the planning permit are not final and are not part of the design review or historic permit for consideration by the commissions tonight. The project was reviewed by the city's development review team, including the fire department, building, engineering, and the planning division. Prior to construction, the applicant will be required to submit construction level drawings, with a building permit, and they will be required to comply with building code requirements. The project was noticed in conformance with the city and state requirements, including mailed notices, newspaper advertisement, site posting, and agenda and application materials posting. The project is consistent with the general plan's public and institutional land use designation and is aligned with the applicable general plan policies. The project meets development standards in the PCF zoning district, and it meets the findings of 1478060 of the planning code, of the zoning code. The project does comply with the historic preservation ordinance, maintaining the resource's integrity and significance per Los Altos Municipal Code 1244.140A, and also the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. In response to a comment, we would like to clarify that the current project plans do not include future planting sites, as these areas fall outside the scope of the project. As indicated in the above slide, we can confirm that there is sufficient space for 17 planting sites that are available adjacent to the new walkway. These sites will be maintained to preserve the existing row of orchard trees, ensuring the Orchard Commons Committee can replant them as needed in the future.
Excuse me, Sean. We lost video again. Can you guys check on that? Well, is it on this display? Okay, we're seeing nothing. It was a little wavy before, both here, and it seems to have disappeared. Oh, it's back. The wavy version of it. So, sorry, Sean. Go ahead.
So, as indicated on the slide, adjacent to the sidewalks are 17 planting sites. Due to the length of the sheet, the extended right portion is placed directly above, and so the additional plants kind of extend further along the sidewalk. These weren't originally they were originally part of the initial submittal packet, but because they weren't part of the scope of work for the patio enclosure, we asked for them to be removed, but there are potential planting sites there for 17 trees. The project is exempt from environmental review under CEQA per section 15301 for existing facilities, as a minor alteration to the existing public facility is below 10,000 square feet, and section 15303 for new construction of small structures, as it involves the construction of an accessory structure courtyard patio for the Los Altos Library. The project has no significant impacts on sensitive environments, geological or biological or air quality. A small portion of the patio does overlap within the Civic Center Apricot Orchard, a city historic designated landmark, but complies with the Secretary of the Interior standards, ensuring no impact on the historic resource as verified by the city's qualified historian. In conclusion, staff does recommend the Historical Commission and Planning Commission approve the project consistent with recommendations in the staff report. This concludes staff's presentation, unless there are any questions. Thank you.
All right, we will come to questions in a moment. Thanks, Sean. I'd like to invite the applicants to present if they'd like. Is Mr. Sutherland, would that be you? And they can have up to 10 minutes if we can have the clock set up for that. And we have Mr. Sutherland and Ms. Tan, is that right? Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure. if we can see what you're going to present.
Not yet.
Stephanie, can you show me how to share the screen? Oh,
Here?
okay,
What's
there
that?
it is. I didn't see that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm only technically challenged when I'm in front of a panel like this.
We, is it going to be displayed for us? Okay. Sorry to keep asking. I just don't know what's going on. Oh,
Tend to
that's,
show.
that's a little zoomed in.
I'm trying to get it into.
It looks like it's on an
Can't get
angle
it
or
into
something.
the-
Oh, is this a
That little one
camera
right there?
looking at a screen? Is that what's going on
Yeah.
here?
Oh, there it
There.
is. There we go. There we go.
Are
Thank
we
you.
good?
I think so.
All right, let's start the clock and
Crooked as
proceed.
it is. Okay. Thank you, Sean. Good evening, commissioners. We're excited to be here tonight to present the plans for the Los Altos Library Courtyard. I'm Steve Sutherland, principal of SSA Landscape Architects, and I'd like to introduce our team. I have Natalie Tan with me. She's been the lead landscape architect on the project. Here, you do that.
All right, we need to use the space bar.
Okay. Since the beginning,
Speak into the mic, please.
Oh,
There you
okay.
go. And you can raise that up if you need to, the
And then we just-
podium.
Space challenged here. And then from the Santa Cruz, Santa Clara County Library District, we have Director Jennifer Weeks and Rose Baeza from the local library, librarian. From Lolly, we have Freddie Wheeler and Treasurer Suresh Sanmugan. And I'd like to start with just a quick review of how this project got to where we are today. It has evolved over the past several years. Initially, the goal was to have about a 7,700 square foot area that included patios and some landscaping. But the original area that we looked at turned out to not be suitable for various reasons. Early in 2023, we looked at the north side of the library with city staff, and it was determined to be the best site. We then developed a plan that was presented in November 2023. That is the plan that is in the orange. The plan presented was comprised of 10,100 square feet of total project area. Now, that total project area included the walkways that are part of the Civic Center campus, not part of the library courtyard. And initially, when we talked about the courtyard, everybody involved in the project was thinking 3,000 to 5,000 square feet for the courtyard patio itself, not all the other stuff. So I think that may be where some of the confusion comes from. That plan in orange, you can see the shaded area with the star in the middle was 2,705 square feet of patio area. The rest is walkways and the reading nooks, which Natalie will explain in a little bit later. The current plan has a total project area of 8,265 square feet. That's the green one down on the bottom, with the patio area being 2,550 square feet. Then we have a detailed breakdown that shows the Civic Center renovated walkways and pathways compromises 2,747 square feet, and the library area with all of its improvements is 518 square feet. So with that, and we have all the breakdown in that slide. I don't need to think with a 10-minute limit, I don't want to go into all the individual square footages of that. But the big thing is that the library is only taking 5,518 square feet of that. With that, I'd like to hand it off to Natalie to explain the details of the exciting design we have for the courtyard.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, we are very excited to review the design and details with you all tonight for this very special project. On the site plan here, we've delineated 3 areas of the project that I want to highlight, and I'll reference them in the next slides. First, we have the Civic Center improvements. Those are shown by the blue lines. Second, we have the outdoor classroom, which is indicated in the green dashed line. The outdoor classroom is an enclosed space with a transparent decorative metal fence and gates. And the third item is the reading nooks. That is the area shown in the orange. This space runs parallel to the library, includes built-in seating, and is enclosed with a glass fence, offering uninterrupted views of the orchard. Further details of the project is the shade pergola that is over the outdoor classroom. This will have a motorized roof for sun protection. We can get this in a custom frame color to match the exterior of the library. The louvers, although being aluminum, we can get them with a wood grain finish, adding to the warmth of the project. The pergola will have integrated LED lights. In all of the support columns, we're able to incorporate convenience power outlets for charging devices, and which will also help support any audio-visual presentations that take place in the outdoor classroom. We have the entry gates. This is the focal feature in creating this sense of arrival at the intersection of all these pathways through the Civic Center. This is a laser-cut Corten steel with ornamental orchard theme design. The intention is that this gate will be open during library business hours and will be locked when the library is closed. This ties into the perimeter fence around the outdoor classroom. This was designed for transparency, durability, and security. The Corten steel frame has a stainless steel mesh panel. The Corten will develop a patina and complement the rustic characteristics of the Civic Center. And then the stainless steel will weather to a soft gray finish. I'll also note that the openings in the stainless steel mesh are less than 1 inch, so it is non-climbable. Then we have the Civic Center connections. So these are upgraded pathways that are coming from the History Museum, Lacey, City Hall, San Antonio by way of downtown Los Altos. Then I'll go inside the courtyard. This is a view of the outdoor classroom. It will be protected from the elements to create a comfortable and flexible learning environment. The outdoor space is going to be able to host programs for public and engage the community. As a backdrop to the outdoor classroom, there's a nice audio-visual wall. So this is a large presentation space, and it's designed to be able to host presentation materials, and also as a noise barrier from the storage utility area that's behind that, storage and utility area. You'll note we have furniture shown in all of these images. This is intended to be flexible. So this furniture will be selected, supplied, and maintained by the library district. The furniture is intended to be flexible and allow for multiple configurations based on the programming needs of the library. We also have permeable pavers throughout the courtyard to reduce surface water runoff and improve site drainage. This is a view looking west into the reading nooks, and you'll see that the library has this expanse of windows. So we want to take advantage of those views. So the existing windows of the library will have open views to the reading nooks and to the orchard from inside the library. When we get into the detail of the reading nooks, these will be constructed of concrete seat walls with wood slats. So these are wide benches for permanent seating, and we will also have power outlets here integrated into the walls for charging devices. We're showing ornamental planting to soften the hardscape at these transition where we have space. These have all been selected to be drought tolerant and low maintenance. This is further east from looking at the reading nooks. You'll see that we've got the glass fence This is a frameless system providing ultimate transparency to the orchard. It creates an enclosed area for patron safety. And this also, the glass fence will be integrated into the retaining wall for additional stability. I also am noting here the emergency exit with concrete steps and a handrail. This glass gate is to remain locked, and it is not intended as an entrance to the courtyard. Then we've got the retaining wall as the slope goes away from the library here into the orchard and the civic center. So we have this retaining wall to facilitate the creation of a level surface in the reading nooks, and the finish will be board form concrete to add texture of the wood grain and for the rustic appearance. And this will also match the concrete for the seat walls in the reading nooks. We do have some 3D model images for you to look at. You'll see in this one, we have relocated the squirrel art bike rack at the entrance to the orchard.
All right. I'm sorry. You're out of time.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
So now we're going to turn it over to commissioners for questions on the staff report as well as the applicant presentation. We're going to start with the Historical Commission. So Chair Coe will take it from here. If you could use your microphones so they can hear everybody on Zoom and record this, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'd like to have each of the commissioners ask their questions, if any. So,
Yes, I want to know how many trees are we going to lose? And
Maybe staff could take that one.
So as indicated in the report, there are 7 existing planting sites that will be lost. There are currently no trees being removed through the proposed project. There are 17 planting sites that run along the walkway that currently do not have trees. And at a later point, after the project's completed, Orchard Commons Committee, who manages the orchard, would have the ability to plant those 17 tree sites.
adequate.
That's my question.
Okay.
Thank you for that presentation about the project. That was very informative. My only question is, can the patio area be accessed from inside the library as well as from the outer gate?
Yes.
Do you have an image that maybe you could show, or is it on one of these slides here?
Yeah, so this is the north door to the library. So there's a single door there. So the patio in this location will not require any alterations to the library.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I have a question. Great care has been taken with the irrigation of the orchard, and with the changes that are being proposed, and I'm assuming that you'll need to add new irrigation for the greenscaping that's going to be happening. And I'd like to know how you would intend to combine those two systems, if at all, and with definitely not impeding the current system as it exists.
We will not impede on the current irrigation system for the orchard. That's completely separate.
Okay.
Ours will be fed off of a completely different backflow preventer that is for the library only and for the landscaping only. So they'll be completely separated, and in addition to that, we will have protection for the orchard irrigation in our construction drawings.
Okay.
That it will require the contractor to protect that.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I noticed in the drawings that I have, at least, there wasn't any irrigation noted on them. So you're aware of it, and,
Yes.
and it'll be taken into
Yeah,
account.
at the next level.
Okay.
Commissioner Coe,
Yes.
I can also answer that too. So as part of the project, because it was outside the project scope, the irrigation outside of the project scope wasn't incorporated. However, we'd like to note that condition number 15 does stipulate that the landscape and irrigation plans of the building permit submittal shall show the existing orchard irrigation system and method of protection during construction to ensure continued irrigation system function. So it is incorporated as a condition for you, if you'd like to look at that. Thank you.
Great. Good, that's what I was looking to hear. I also am aware there was concern about, and this is for staff, on the CEQA issue, which is clearly in the resolution is stated that we don't need to do the CEQA, but there seemed to be a misunderstanding, at least in the feedback that I got, about whether or not this particular plot of land was quote-unquote agricultural. And I'm wondering if you could clarify that for us, according to the rules of CEQA.
Yeah, sure. So the project site is designated as public and institutional in the City of Los Altos General Plan and is zoned for public and community facilities. The adopted initial study mitigated negative declaration for the Los Altos General Plan update states that there is no prime farmland, unique farmland, or farmland of statewide importance within the City of Los Altos planning area. Also, as referenced in the notice of exemption, the environmental consultant did confirm that the site is not a prime farmland site, as indicated in the state inventory of prime farmland sites. So as not being a prime farmland site, it does not qualify as an agricultural property.
Okay, thank you for that. And those are all the questions that I have, Chair.
All right. Thank you, Historical Commission. So we're going to move on now to questions from the Planning Commission. Anybody want to start us off?
Yeah, I can start.
Maris, go ahead.
This is for the landscape architect. So will the outdoor classroom serve as a overflow space in terms of the monitors and the equipment being connected to the orchard room? Like, is that the intent, that if there's an event in the orchard room, will this connect to that space, or?
A programming question.
Come to the mic. There you go.
Yeah, that's a programming question for the library.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't know. Good evening, Commissioners. Jennifer Weeks from the Santa Clara County Library District. And so we are putting AV to enable programming to be going on in 2 places, but we certainly can look at that streaming option. I was there at the library this morning. There are 145 people at story time. So this is an wonderful example of expanding opportunity.
Okay, so it's for new events, not, because
Correct.
I was watching the old meetings and it was kind of in conjunction with the orchard room, but this would be primarily new events.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's really enhancing opportunity. And I would say too that, as they highlighted, those benches are just one furniture option. We would also have just simple tables and chairs. People could study out there, be meeting space. So we want to make sure that we're able to really make that space what it needs to be, depending on the time of year and what the needs of the community are.
Okay, yeah, that was actually my next question, which the different configurations, are there renderings of that, or any kind of graphic? Because it's just, we just see the one with the benches. I wasn't sure, are there other renderings that you made, or so
certainly a shared the expertise of the landscape architecture. Yes, I believe the far one there on the left.
Could you bring that over?
Yeah. Okay, I see what you mean. Okay.
So that's like, is that the default configuration? Like when there's nothing going on, there's just going to be some tables around or something like that?
It's more likely, yes, that we would be able to have that available again, during most of the day. But when we know that we're going to have an author come or something, that we have that opportunity to put it into the classroom setting. I know we've been talking to Greentown and the orchard enthusiasts, and we'd love to have programs, obviously, in partnership with all of those, and that will really be in the setting.
And then, sorry, just curious, is there a rough estimate of how many people are going to be able to sit in this space? Is there a range? I just wasn't sure. I couldn't find that.
Natalie, I believe it was for the classroom seating, you had a occupancy of
50 to 100.
100.
Okay, so definitely over 100 people could probably be in this space.
Yes.
New space. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you. That's all my question.
Can I just clarify while you're there? So you said there were 145 for an event today. The capacity of that room is 100,
Less
right?
than. So
what do you do?
Interestingly, the librarian was sharing with me that she had to disappoint some 3-year-olds and tell them that they couldn't come into story time
Wow.
because the room was just too crowded.
Okay, so, but the new space is also 100 approximately.
And actually going further into the reading nooks would actually elongate that, which is really nice because again, you can be closer in. We can put seating, there's 20 people in a book group, or again, we can expand those benches and all the way back, you would have the opportunity for everyone to attend.
All right, thank you. Thank you. We'll probably call you back in a moment. Anybody else want to go?
I have one quick question.
Please.
And I'm not sure who exactly is going to answer this, but just to clarify, the area that's fenced off is the reading nooks and the classroom area, the library portion, if you will, and the public walkways that connect with the civic center are, as they are now, open all the time. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct.
Okay. But the only roofed over part is the pergola?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That's it? All right.
I have a question.
You turned it off.
Will patrons of the library be able to go out with materials that are not checked out?
Yes, they will.
So, okay, so then if you're out there with materials that are not checked out, is there a concern that people might be, taking things out? I mean,
No, we really, I'll tell you, we really do not have a very big issue with our theft. People want to do the right thing. And so we will encourage, obviously, them to check out, but we also understand that we want to make it convenient. There will be self-check machines by that door. So we'll continue to educate people about the need to check things out and bring them in. But our goal is really not to stop people or make it inconvenient for people. But we do believe that as they're in the children's room, for instance, they'll take their materials out, everything. We make it very convenient for them to check it out.
Okay, all right. And then my next question is, has the library thought about maintenance and cleaning? I mean, it's a glass wall and glass, gets very dirty and over time it's etched typically by rainwater. Is there a plan for maintenance and cleaning and replacement?
Specifically to the glass?
Yeah, specifically.
So I will lean to the architects on the expertise on the glass. They have done a lot of research to make sure that this was appropriate material. Natalie, do you want to speak any more to that? Or Steve? This is a group project, as you know, so thank you.
Thanks. There's been a lot of iterations to get to the point where we have glass. There were so many program desires to have the clear view to the library. We looked at different materials. Plexiglass isn't going to last very long. It's not very durable. It yellows. Glass seems to be the most durable, and it can be washed. It may get etched over time with rainwater, but it's probably going to be the longest lasting thing. We actually started out with wood slatted fences that you could see through, but there really was a strong desire to have it be 100% transparent, and the only thing that gives you that is glass.
So I have a follow-up question. If anyone can walk out there without checking out materials and you're not concerned about theft and you want unobstructed views, then what was the point of the walls at all? I mean, why have any wall?
You mean
anywhere?
the fence?
All of it. Why have any fencing at all?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's really for patron safety. So we know that families will take their little ones out. I don't know about any of you. I raised 2 boys. My 4-year-old will take off quickly. And so we wanted to make sure that it was a secured area for people. We wanted to make sure that a family could go out and be involved in a program and not having someone back off into the orchard unattended. So it really is security of people that those barriers allowed for.
Okay, all right, thanks. I do have a couple questions for, I think it's staff. Maybe, no, actually, hang on a second. Who would this be for? Maybe this is for the architect. Is there a materials board for the mesh? You had mentioned the mesh has like less than 1-inch size openings and,
Better than a materials board.
It's in the packet.
well, no, that's, okay, that's,
This is an actual product of it, or a sample of it that we've designed into the project. Yeah.
so that's the fencing.
Stainless steel.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Can we pass it around?
Yeah, just the edges are sharp, so don't.
And I have another question for you. I don't know if you want to go to the podium. The site does show the removal of 3 trees. I know, Sean, I think you meant there's nothing in the orchard that's existing that's being removed, but there are 3 trees, I think, a cherry, a plum, and a Japanese maple.
Yes.
But there are 22 spectacular camellias out there, and I'm just wondering, I think that's an oversight. My sense is that they are being proposed for removal.
Some of them will be, yes. And those are primarily after the windows. So it would just be the end of the reading nooks where some of those camellias would be removed. And that's, we have photos taken inside the library out to the orchard, and the view is blocked from the camellias. So the ones in front of the window would be removed. But there are a
Could
few.
you show that on the
Let's
display?
see. Let me see. Share this. Okay. It's a little delayed. Okay. So I'm making my way to the eastern side, and on the other side of that window bump out is what you're referring to.
We're not seeing anything, though.
Yeah,
Not
can
yet.
we,
Oh,
I think this is,
okay,
there we
right
go.
here.
It's in the control room.
So this section that you see right there, the wood, that is where the camellias would be removed. And there are also a few by the reading nooks. As you go towards the corner of the building, I don't have any existing photos of them, but I can.
Can you go back to the
Yes.
photo you were just on?
This one?
That one?
Yeah.
So all the camellias, like that are kind of behind, if we're looking at this,
Mm-hmm.
the ones behind us would be preserved. Is that correct?
We will be able to preserve some of them. The exact quantity, I'm not sure. There is going to be some grading towards the corner of the building, but we can definitely try to preserve as many camellias as possible. And potentially including the ones that are behind that emergency exit stairs. There will be a little buffer space there.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay. Vice Chair? We might need it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would leave it there.
Maybe a couple of comments and questions. This started out as lots of 8,265 square feet, and then someplace it said 5,000 square feet, and then 7,000 square feet. But it really looks like the patio is 2,500 square feet. Is that what I heard?
Yeah. So
that changes from this huge complex, this huge area
Right. So
to
the
a-
actual patio space we've measured that 2,500 square feet to be roughly around the area where the outdoor classroom is,
Awesome.
underneath the pergola.
On your slide there a minute ago, it shows the reading nook.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a gate at the end of the reading nook to get down some stairs to the outside?
That is an emergency exit.
Okay.
Yes.
Otherwise, to get into the reading nook, you would come through the library or from the outside through the nice courtesan gate.
Correct.
That's very nice.
Yes.
So you go in that way and you go to the reading nook and you can sit and read and look out.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
correct.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
I had a few questions. So that's just an emergency exit,
Yes.
perhaps with one of those
The crossbars.
Crossbars.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I had a question for Ms. Weeks, perhaps. So what happens to all these benches when you clear them out for some other use, like for the tables? Is that what the storage is for?
Correct. That's
Okay.
exactly what the storage
So
is for.
there'll just be furniture swapping in and out occasionally as time goes on.
And our staff are used to doing that, as you see in our current orchard room. Yes.
And is the AV setup? There were a number of public comments concerned about, we want to connect people with nature, and then we have 5 big displays out there. Is that finalized, or are you guys still working out the details of what exactly will be out there from an AV perspective?
We're always still working out the details because time marches on and things will change. I would like to first point out those won't always be on.
I could add to that.
Oh, okay. So they will not always be on. Their intention is really for programming. So for instance, if there are words to songs or there are slides that a presenter is actually, intent on showing to the audience, having something closer to everyone. If you do have a large audience is the cause of having a number of different screens, but we won't be having it on 24 hours a day with, ads for everything. It really was to have an accessible and informational part of the classroom.
And I just wanted to add
Please.
to that, the sound system is designed so that the volume can be very low and any people in the back of the classroom will be able to hear it. So everything is meant for close interaction with the students or participants to be closer to a screen and close to a speaker, so it doesn't have to be loud enough that you would hear it if you were walking by.
And then for Ms. Weeks again, is this space rentable by the public or available to the library programming? You mentioned Greentown and some other things. Like who are the people who can use this space?
Certainly. So the library is a public space, and our goal is always to have it available for your community, as we do with the orchard room. The intent really for this space is to make sure that it's activated in the most relevant ways possible. So if we have an opportunity to present programs, most especially in collaboration with community groups, those are really the most successful ones. So if we have someone to give information about the orchard and are able to bring together people, that would be a wonderful time to have it as programming. And then we know on a Saturday afternoon where it's a beautiful day and we want to make sure that we have seating for many people who come and enjoy the library, we'll make sure that we have the activated seating for that. So it's really just making sure that we're being very accessible and also responsive to what's going on.
Great, thank you. That's it for me. So any others? I think Vice Chair has another question maybe? No? Okay, false alarm. Down here? Anybody? All right. So I think that's it for questions. Did that bring up any more questions for the Historical Commission while we were deliberating? You guys are all good? All right. So I'm going to get to use the gavel again. I'd like to open the public portion of this matter so we may receive public comments. And I'm not sure, do you have, how many cards do you have?
We have 9.
9 cards? All right, we're going to allow 3 minutes each. And if you could call people up in order, that would be great.
Maria Batista.
I couldn't hear what she said.
I just requesting I be moved later in the.
Sure.
Okay.
Who's next? Let's keep moving.
Mandy McBurney?
And there's a timer for them on the podium, right? So I can't see it, but I'm guessing is it hidden behind the, there you go.
3 minutes.
Great. Please.
Okay. I'm Maddie McBurney. I started Arts Altos, so of course my question is, where's the public art? I have a couple ideas. So the glass walls can be public art. They can contain history from the Ohlone, Ranchero, apricots, or tech. They can be abstract. Linda Glass just created a beautiful glass piece in San Jose for below market rate housing, and it's really, really, really nice. The walkways should have some connectivity with the community center with public art would be great. You can have them go along the whole pathway. Furniture, it'd be nice if the furniture was a little colorful like it is at the community center so that there is some connectivity with the two spaces. And then there's a retaining wall kind of around the HVAC system, I think. That would be cool if there was a mural on there. It's kind of far to the right. And let me see if I covered everything. I think that is pretty much it. So I just think that, the one thing about the public art, if it could include things about books, since this is about the library, everything is about the apricot orchard, but it'd be nice if it was about the library and books and people. That's it.
Thank you. And an excellent example of having up to 3 minutes, but not necessarily requiring the full 3 minutes. Let's move on to the next speaker.
John Bear?
It's a lovely project from the library's point of view, but it also impacts the orchard, and it's a landmark, and that means it's special, and it's largely being ignored. An orchard is both trees and space, and yes, maybe we're losing 3 tree sites, or maybe we're losing 7, or maybe we'll gain net 7, but we are losing space, and that's non-trivial. My request for exactly how much space we were losing was met with deafening silence by the city. So I don't even know. But from this report, I can gather it's maybe 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 square feet. I simply don't know. And I suspect nobody in this room on the dais or below knows. And yet it does have an impact. An orchard is not simply trees. It's trees and space. It's the equivalent of 1 or 2 or 3 large-size houses in Los Altos that we're losing in terms of orchard space. And it's being ignored, okay? 8,500 square feet, that's 7% of the orchard space. Is that material? I don't know. 8%, you get a DUI. With regard to design review, there are a number of trees that are being put in place in front of the fence. I don't understand why they aren't apricot trees. You know, we're trying to make a connection to the orchard. Why aren't the apricot trees? Why weren't pedestrian level street views provided as part of the package? It's the old developer trick. Show pictures of the site and the impact from a high angle. When I was on Planning Commission, we told applicants, if you don't provide them, your application isn't complete. Come back when you do provide them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Roberta Phillips?
Hi, I'm Roberta Phillips. I've been a resident of Los Altos for 30 years, and I'm here to speak about the orchard because I do think that it is a gem in our city that really does need to be preserved. And I also was very, very surprised at the 8,200 square feet. I think it's really, really way too large. And when I stand out on San Antonio Road and I look at the orchard, I'm saying people are trying to tell me that the space between City Hall and the library is not orchard. And I think everyone in Los Altos believes it's orchard. And we want to make sure that we maintain our orchard, just like San Francisco is synonymous with cable cars. Los Altos is synonymous with the apricot orchard. There's been books written about it, and people just think it's really, really special. That's not to say that I don't support the library. I think their patio project for Woodland Library is a good idea. I think the library needs to, have more space internally, and they want to redesign that. That's fine with me. But we do pay taxes to Santa Clara County. We have 2 libraries in town. The orchard cannot be replaced. And taking away 2,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet, which again, I don't know how many square feet you're taking away of the orchard, but it's quite obvious that you're going through this process because you're proposing making alterations to the orchard. That's what this is all about. So I'm asking that you deny the application to make alterations to the orchard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Freddie Wheeler.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm the president of the Los Altos Library Endowment, and I just wanted to come before you this evening and tell you that we are so pleased to be able to fund this project. There was some concern in the written comments about whether the project would be fully funded, with the confusion over how large or not large it is. And I just wanted to reconfirm that Los Altos Library Endowment will fund 100% of this project. And we believe that this project will highlight and enhance the orchard. This will give people a place to sit and look out upon the orchard and enjoy the orchard. And if you don't enjoy the orchard, you're not going to know about it, and you may not care about it. And so the concern should be, I believe, how can we get residents of Los Altos to actually look at, enjoy, and learn about the orchard? And this is an opportunity to do so. There is a collaboration with the History Museum to put on programs to teach children and residents about the orchard. I think it's a win-win for the library and the orchard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Alice Menzel.
Good evening, commissioners. Submitted written comments earlier to get into some weeds on some very serious legal issues. I'm just going to give a couple of bullet points on this. What we have here in this packet is a one-sided story. It is written by paid staff, experts, landscape architects who have been paid to get a project approved. As I read it with my legal hat on as an attorney who's had over 30 years of experience in historic land use law, almost every page has a bias that's a one-sided, feel that now everything's okay. Everything from saying there's no CEQA problem, there's no serious impact worth considering or talking about with the historic orchard. That's simply not true. This packet only came out on Friday night. We've had almost no time to look at it. There's nothing in there on several issues that concern me. First, we don't even know the square footage is a kind of moving target. What trees and where need to be taken out or planting sites paved over is not clear. The more I look at the report, the more confused I am. I even went out to Kinko's, or FedEx rather, and made big blow-ups of the maps that were in there, and in your meeting back on the 27th in January, to try to figure out, what are we talking about for planting signs and tree numbers? Could barely make heads or tails of it. Because the experts on this package don't want us to know, and the public, I suppose, or just an oops. There is absolutely no discussion in the reports of the cumulative impacts on the orchard. Even if it was just impacting one tree and one tree site, you have to look at the cumulative impacts going all the way back to when this orchard first started getting historical status in 1991, in 2020, and again in a new state document filed on the last week of January. Hardly time for the public to review that. There was no public review. It was just, I suppose, filed by a landscape architect who's not a historian of land use. This is very concerning because cumulative impacts on a state-designated historic resource, which includes not just the orchard, but the Smith House, the views to it from the orchard, and everything else, has to be discussed. Otherwise, you are legally opening yourself up to a big kerfluffle in more than one venue. This process, putting both Historic Commission and Planning Commission together, is a speed process, like speed dating. What goes wrong in speed dating? I leave that to you to think about. So therefore, this is very reckless legally to have any hope of reasonable public input. And certainly, if you want to have a battle of experts and piles of paper, you only have one side. You'll see the other side elsewhere. This process, this speed process, and this one-sided report and the staff report and all to build it now justification might have been okay before the last week of June when Loper Bright passed in the Supreme Court overturning their discretion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Richard Feldman.
Hi, my name is Richard Feldman. I've lived here for 35 years. I like libraries and orchards. I've worked in the library in high school. I've planted apricot trees at all my houses. I did come to join those who are speaking on behalf of the orchard. That I'm not sure what the legal deal is in terms of perpetual maintenance of orchards, but the project is making an indentation. It is removing some space, as people have said. The plan view showed 17 tree planting sites, although it's not really clear if they're too close to the fence. But those tree sites are going to be there anyway, so those don't count. It's not like there's any net gain in trees. We're, as other people have said, we're making a dent in the orchard. I appreciate the comment that the patio will bring people closer to the orchard, so that tempers it a little bit. It still is an irreversible dent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Maria Batista.
Thank you all for doing the hard work and facing the big job ahead of you tonight. I do think that we have a situation where we're trying to do too many things at one time, starting with this evening, which generally doesn't, as we know, when you try to do two things at once, neither thing gets done well. But in addition, while we're talking numbers tonight too, you actually have in your packet 3 items that really require review and approval. And the primary record that's in your packet was just filed at the end of January and hasn't had a public review process or been approved by City Council. So I don't think that this document actually has validity yet in our community, just to take note of that. But I also would suggest too, I think the library courtyard project actually is using some misclassifications. That this actually, the orchard is agricultural. It is an active working farmland, has been since 1901. I've been making apricot jam out of it for the last 30 years. So it produces a product that is sold. I also would say that project is not really meeting the standards of setting and association. We've talked about the library, we've talked about the orchard, but we're not talking about the greater setting of the Civic Center. When the Civic Center was designed in 1960 by Ernst Kump, it was designed as a campus. And it set a standard for and a paradigm really for the campus setting that we see even in our corporate sites today. Part of the intention of that is to have buildings set in a vast open space. And it really is an iconic piece of California architecture where there's a very definite and intentional association of indoor to outdoor. We see it at the Sunset Magazine headquarters. There's now actually, there's a campaign to have it on the National Register of Historic Spaces. And putting essentially, but I really do see, and no joking aside, as like sort of prison architecture, inserting that element right in the middle of a campus that was intentionally designed to be connected to the orchard with an indoor-outdoor relationship just really makes no sense. I appreciate that the library has programming issues, and I appreciate the notion of bringing people into the orchard, but we don't bring them into the orchard by building gates and walls and have concrete and steel fencing. That is not a way to introduce young children to nature. And young children, we see this problem every day. I'm saying trees, not TVs. Even if television screens are off, there's still screens in our presence. And it's becoming a very sad world of every time we turn around, we are having to look at a screen. Really, it's sad. We should be able to walk through the orchard and look at trees and see nature and not have AV systems and not have barriers to our experience. What are we doing to the next generation? We say our children are anxious. They're anxious because we keep shoving screens in front of their faces. The very rendering in this packet is a student sitting looking at a cell phone in front of a big screen. I think we can do better. We deserve better as a community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could ask, whoever's phone keeps going off, could you please turn off the ringer? I'm not sure where that's coming from, but it'd be great if you guys could fix that. Are there more public speakers?
We have two.
Okay.
Next one, Nicole Richards.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I'm Nicole. I'm a resident of Los Altos. I actually live here in downtown, and I am frequently at the library studying. And so I fully support this library expansion. As someone who utilizes the library, I believe that this project will benefit many, including teenagers and families with young children, giving them the space to commune and chat and get to know the history of Los Altos by being right next to the orchard. I also think that those who love the orchard stand to gain the most from this initiative, as it will not only allow for the reassessment and the care of the orchard, but also create a space to sit and enjoy the space. I've had the pleasure of walking and driving by the space pretty much every day, and I rarely see anybody stopping to enjoy it because there really isn't a place to do that instead of just standing on the sidewalk. So this new expansion will provide the opportunity in the space to do just that and to really enjoy it. Additionally, I wanted to actually echo Commissioner Disney. I hope that there is an upkeep plan for the glass so that we can appreciate the orchard even throughout all of the weather conditions, kind of like we had today. And I understand that the reading nook space was made smaller. I actually hope that we can make it bigger to allow for more people to sit and enjoy the space and then allow for wheelchairs and strollers and all the things that want to enter that space. And I'm excited. So thank you, commissioners and staff.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Teresa Morris.
Sorry, a little traffic jam back there. Teresa Morris, I am serving as a commissioner on the Park Commission, but I am not speaking tonight as a commissioner. I'm speaking solely as a resident, as I take that as my first job as residing in Los Altos. I am concerned about the encroachment on the orchard. I'm concerned that we've had a map that we've used for years that has been an accepted map and it is now being tossed out the door. I'm concerned that we're not getting environmental reviews on this. I am concerned that each and every time we lay cement down in our world, that we are heating our planet up more and more. The more cement, the more glass, the more metal we put up against nature, the hotter it gets and the less likely nature will survive. We are nature. This will affect us. This will affect our children. I appreciate the library needs more space. I do believe there's a little bit of a if you build it, they will come scenario. So the more we build space, the more people come, the more we have to turn away. Perhaps a system where we have sign up, perhaps a system where we run events more than one time in one day or within a month would be a good idea. Perhaps a situation where we fund our library in a way that we can build a new library that has multiple floors with an elevator would be of benefit, so that we didn't have to cut into our orchard, which is a historic and protected piece of land in our city. I agree with some of the speakers. I believe this can be a much more attractive design. We could have some art features in it. I would like to see much more nature, much more softness to it, more natural elements all around. Far less cement than I'm seeing. The walkways do not have to be cement. There are many options that could be explored. I think that if we have more public input, we have better designs when we end with the projects that we're working on. That has been shown over and over again in organizations that use more input from people as opposed to less input. If it does pass, and I do believe this will pass, I don't think there's a chance that it won't. As I said, I'd like to see it more natural. I have attended and I have helped with the STEM event that happens. We had a tree one year where people put papers on and said what they liked about the orchard. The nature was what they liked about the orchard. Not one person said, take the trees out, put more cement up. Everybody values this asset. When you go to Saratoga, their orchard is valued. We will be losing something very important. Same with Sunnyvale. Every time we take a tree out, and we've taken out numerous apricot trees, we are hurting ourselves and we are hurting our planet and we are hurting our city.
Thank you. Did we get everybody?
No more cards.
All right. Any final public speakers? Last call? All right. Oh, yes, please. Oh, if they would like it. Would the applicant like to rebut any of the comments from the public?
Yes, we do have some images that we can show that I think will be helpful.
Okay. Why don't we hold the clock? Yeah. They'll hold the clock till you get the AV working again.
Just close it, right?
Well, we're not in the Zoom anymore, are we? No, I don't think we can.
No.
We need to rejoin the Zoom meeting.
I have the email.
Oh, wait, let's hear. Passcode. I have it on my phone and that is off. Do you know the passcode?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, here. 242 017.
Recording in progress.
Oh. Why is that?
This is.
I think you're not at
No.
the place where.
Mm-mm. Okay, join as panelist.
Could have a 30-second stretch break.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, I think that's on there.
Okay.
What we have are some images that were kind of requested in public comment that
Okay.
we weren't able to show that we would like to show.
Oh, great. So we're up and running. Tell me when you're ready to begin.
Okay. I think we're ready.
All right. Let's start the timer. We're back in order here. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have done some renderings that do show the view of this project from the outside. We have done, okay, it's moving now, it's just a little slow. So we have done a rendering here. This is an image. If you're essentially right where we are right now, looking towards the library. And in this image, you can see where the patio, where the courtyard is visible from that parking area. We also have one here that's rendered view from San Antonio Road. And the visual that you can have of the courtyard from San Antonio. This is a visual that you can see from the east of the courtyard, and right here, the corner right there of the reading nooks.
Excuse me. Could you end the conversation in the back, please? Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
We also did a rendering from a view from inside the library. So you can see the transparency of that fence. It's hard to see where it is, but you do have some visual of the reading nooks, and it's a little bit easier to see here the level of that glass and the unobstructed views into the orchard. I think those were the questions that we could answer from as far as the views from outside the site.
Okay. Anything else from Lale or Mr. Sutherland? You still have 3 minutes left, or are you good? We're good? Yeah. All right. Thank you. So I'm going to close the public hearing, and we're going to move on to discussion and debate with the commission. So first up will be the Historical Commission. I'll turn it over to Chair Coe for that discussion.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask each of the...
Is your mic on? Just so the Zoom people can hear all of you guys.
What I would like to do is ask for any comment and deliberation from my two partner commissioners.
I'd just like to say that I don't think this is an easy question. I feel like I can see different sides here that unfortunately aren't as meshed together as would be ideal. There are some differing agendas, and I feel like I can understand all of those. I don't think there's an easy answer here. And I am grateful that we live in a town where people are this interested and this committed in the history of the town and the scenery of it, and are interested enough to come and give up an evening and speak about it. That carries a lot of weight to me. At the same time, I feel like I can see the library's interests and needs, and I consider myself a power user at the library. I'm over here a lot. I also habitually, probably every couple of weeks, I ride my bicycle along the north side of the library on that sidewalk, and I have the orchard on my right and the library on my left. And I like having it that way, sort of a wild way, wild in the sense of here's nature, I can go right through it. There's a paved path, it's easy to ride on. At the same time, I was very taken by Ms. Miller's comments about how this new space may really allow the community to appreciate the orchard more, to become part of it, to be essentially within it because of the glass surroundings. And those are strengths to me. So, again, I don't, whichever way this goes, I do feel like there are other voices to listen to for future projects, future thinking. That's it for now.
I think our public comments brought forth some points that I would like to reinforce, which is I don't think that it was adequately described by the presenters exactly what we have now and how many square feet the existing pergola and the existing benches and landscaping take up, and how much is incremental. I think if it had been presented in that way, that would help us understand the true magnitude of the change, which is there's something there already. And so we're adding to it. How much is that? And that's a reasonable criticism. I think that maintaining and keeping the orchard is a special kind of historical challenge. It's not like a building. It has to be replaced and watered and irrigated and treated for insects and such. So it's a special kind of historical place. I think that on the whole, this will enhance the use of that area, and so on the balance, I am in favor of this project.
Thank you. What I would like to do to wrap up from the Historical Commission's perspective on this issue, because we've talked about a lot of things, some of which has to do with the fact that we're working with a small area of historical significance. The library is not a historical resource. The orchard is a historical resource. And we're talking about changes to both. But so what I would like to do, since I think a lot of things are getting confused, is I would like to make very clear what the resolution is that is in front of the Historical Commission. Because I think it'll be easy to see and for the public to know what actually it is that we're voting on. And I think right now it's a little bit confused. So if you would beg my pardon for a few minutes to go through this, I think it might be helpful overall. So the resolution that we have is a resolution of the Historical Commission of the City of Los Altos approving a historical alteration permit for a new library courtyard at 13 South San Antonio Road. So what we will be voting on is whether or not to approve that historical alteration permit. Okay, nothing more, nothing less. And so this kind of tracks through the way the resolution is written. It tracks through the history of how we've gotten to this point. And it states, whereas the applicant, the landscape architect, submitted an application for an historical alteration permit for an outdoor courtyard at the subject address and is referred to as the project. Whereas the project is located in the PCF zoning district, which allows all uses of facilities owned, leased, or operated by the city and county. And whereas said project was processed in accordance with the applicable provisions of the California Government Code and the Los Altos Municipal Code. Whereas the proposed project complies with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation by preserving the historic orchard's defining characteristics, including its layout, species composition, and spatial organization, while the project not compromise its integrity. The work avoids adverse impacts to character-defining features and maintains compatibility with the orchard's historic scale and function. The project ensures the orchard's long-term preservation and significance as a cultural resource with no significant adverse aspects to historic resources. And what I should mention is that the verbiage in all this is strictly specified by the Secretary of the Interior as well as the city law. Okay. So whereas the Historical Commission held a duly noticed public hearing to consider the project on February 6, 2025, and considered the written record and all public comment, and approved the historical alteration permit subject to the recommended findings of conditions and, and conditions of approval. Okay, so we haven't voted yet, but that's the statement. Whereas all the requirements of the Public Resources Code, the state CEQA guidelines, and the regulations and policies of the City of Los Altos have been satisfied or complied with by the city in connection with the project. And whereas the findings and conclusions made by the Historical Commission in this resolution are based upon the oral and written evidence presented, as well as the entirety of the administrative record for the proposed project, which is incorporated herein by this reference. The findings are not based solely on the information provided in this resolution. And finally, whereas approval of the project would be categorically exempt from environmental review, and it lists sections because it includes a minor alteration of an existing public facility consisting of the replacement of an existing patio with a new courtyard and the construction of an accessory courtyard for the existing Los Altos Library. So when we vote as the Historical Commission, we are voting that we approve this list of whereases, okay? And by virtue of that fact, then if we vote yay, we would approve the historic alteration permit. If we would vote nay, then we would not. Okay. Any questions, anybody? Okay. So I would like to hear a motion.
I move that we adopt the resolution as read.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. And I'd like to do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Atkinson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Adams,
Aye.
Chair Coe.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. I think they can leave if they want to, but you're welcome. You have front row seats, so you may never get that again. But thank you for your work tonight. Are we doing okay? Do we need a break, or is everybody fine? Fine? Okay. All right. If members of the public would like to leave, feel free. We'll just give everyone a second. I see a few people trickling out. And we're now going to move on to the Planning Commission discussion and debate. Anybody like to go first?
I have a question of staff.
Okay, can we do a question of staff? Please, go ahead.
So in our resolution, it references 15301 of CEQA and
She can't hear it.
15301 of CEQA and 15303. Is that referring to historical, things on a historical register? Is that what that references, those sections?
No, it's referencing the Public Resource Code 15301 and 15303 for minor alterations and for accessory structures to an existing site. There is a separate categorical exemption for Secretary of the Interior Standards compliance, but that wasn't proposed in this resolution.
Okay, so that section just refers to, what did you say, public?
Yeah, Public Resource Code 15301 and 15303.
It's explained in the report.
Yeah, it's explained in the David J. Powers categorical exemption memorandum that was provided to you as an attachment.
Okay, so then the project is really, it's a library project. And so we're, what staff is claiming is because the library is a public resource, then it falls within this 15301 and 15303.
No, what we're saying is that due to the minor nature of the project under 15301 and the project size being under 10,000 square feet, then it qualifies for that exemption. And when under 15303, due to being a minor alteration or addition, accessory structure, then it qualifies for 15303. And then in addition, it does not qualify for any of the exceptions under 15300.2 of the Public Resource Code. And that's explained in the memo that was provided to you by David J. Powers.
Okay, and the "it" is the library.
Correct.
Okay, all right,
It is the project, which is the patio.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So any
No, that's it.
discussion items or? All right, I think Commissioner Ahi would like to go.
Okay, so I don't have any issues with the project itself, the location of the project, the footprint of the project, or the size of the project, so I'll just get that out of the way. My main issues are with some design decisions. So the footprint of the project decreased from the design that was presented in November of 2023. And that design decision was made with the orchard in mind, from what it seems like from my perspective. The footprint of the reading nook walkway, that also decreased. So now there's less people in that area. And now there's a glass wall that goes up the entire walkway that looks out into the orchard. And that design decision was made with the orchard in mind. And then the see-through mesh panel is now what's covering the outdoor classroom. Before it was kind of a wooden slat fence. And that design decision was made with the orchard in mind. And so my point is that there's a lot of important design decisions that are being made with respect to the orchard, but when the project was presented to the council in July of 2023, it was not an orchard observation patio or an orchard patio. It was a library patio. And so I think it feels right now like it's making a lot of design concessions to the orchard. And so because part of that space is for children's events, I think it needs to feel more private in that space. I think that there's going to be a lot of sound that's generated in that area, and I think it should be contained. I don't believe that the mesh panel works practically for that outdoor space. I think the reading nook needs more seating. I think the library can get very crowded, so I think that there should be more seating along that walkway instead of only at those two spots. The glass wall, you know, again, if this is a reading nook, then I don't think you need that entire stretch to have the glass. I think it's far more effective to have kind of these intentional vista points for people to kind of have their moment instead of having it all along that side. The bottom line is I don't think that the design decisions that you've made with respect to the orchard are even appreciated by the people who love the orchard. And so I feel very strongly that the orchard should not be the only factor in a lot of these design decisions. And so I guess we can talk about the next steps, but those are just my opinions for now. Thanks.
Should we have a discussion about those? Would that be helpful for anybody? Because
Maybe see.
okay, maybe we'll see what the other input is, and then we'll come back to that. Because I had some similar thoughts, but also different. So,
Sure.
Richard, would you like to go?
Thank you. Very interesting comments. I read everybody's comments that you sent them. The presentations tonight affected me in a lot of ways, things that I thought about, and you had some really good points. And the presentation by the architects. I'm a guy that used to go to the library a lot when we moved in here in Los Altos a whole bunch of years ago. We'd go over there. Sunday, I went over to the library and went to the reading nook area and sat down and looked at the orchard. I said, you know, this is really nice. This is a place I can come on a Sunday or a Monday and sit outside and read or whatever. Well, it's pretty nice. And so today I thought, you know, I haven't been in the library in a long time. So today I went over to the library and walked in and went through the library and went right out the single door. And it needs to be improved a little bit out to where the patio area is and visualized it. You know, it's pretty nice.
and we already have an arbor there, it's a covered patio. It's not very big. And with the children that were in the library today, they had one room that was packed with kids. And then they had a teen room that there was 3 or 4 kids, young teens, reading, studying, whatever. So I walked through the whole line. I walked down the length of the reading nook wall and looked out, and along that wall in the inside of the library, there's folks sitting. There was a mother there's a lady with a child, I don't know which way, hers or whatever. She was sitting there and she was reading, and some other people sitting there, the lights coming in. And I stood there, and you could look out the windows and you see the orchard and you see where the reading nook was. And I visualized inside and outside as to where the glass wall would be. And I think that we really have something here where we have an opportunity. We have the library, a communal space. We have a community center finally, which is a great place to go. But you can go to the library, grab a book, go outside and sit in this proposed arbor on a windy day. And I think the glass wall offers the advantage of a windbreak that we sometimes get here. So you could pick up that magazine in the magazine room, walk outside, be in the arbor area, or you could go to the reading nook. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. Very impressed. I like the Courtesan Gate, Steel Gate, when you come from this area going to see the library. It's a nice welcome. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I'd like to go.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to respond first to the CEQA because that is one of our findings in the staff report. So in the resolution, it says, whereas approval of the project would be categorically exempt from environmental review under 15301, existing facilities, and 15303, new construction and conversion of small structures. So in 15301, if you look at that language, it says minor alteration of existing public or private structures involving negligible or no expansion of existing or former use. And then the report written by Trainer, H.L., I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right, but there's a report by Trainer that says clearly on page 3, the proposed project would allow for expanded programming opportunities. So I'm wondering why this is CEQA exempt under 15301. And then additionally in 15301, it says 10,000 square feet. And this is what Sean mentioned. The project is in an area where all public services, I won't read that section, 10,000 square feet if the area in which the project is located is not environmentally sensitive. Well, it overlaps with an orchard. So is the orchard environmentally sensitive? And environmentally sensitive means any area in which plant or animal life is especially valuable because of its special nature, and that could be easily disturbed or degraded by human activities and development. So I go, well, this is open to interpretation, but my interpretation is based on the definition of what is environmentally sensitive. I would say the orchard is environmentally sensitive. And those planting sites, as Jonathan Baer mentioned, I mean, once we pave over them, they're gone. So the land is very valuable and the use is very precious. It's highly distinctive, historical, and rare. And we should be looking really, really seriously at this, even if it is, a few planting sites. And then in 15300, it reads right there, historical resources, a categorical exemption shall not be used for a project which may cause a substantial adverse change in the significance of a historical resource. I don't think this is substantial adverse change, right? It's not that many planting sites, but if every civic center building had a similar patio, that would end up being a substantial adverse change. And I think as planning commissioners, when we approve projects, we aspire to make decisions and interpretations that are very consistent. Like when we approve something, we usually say, okay, we want this to be okay with anyone else who wants to do this. So if we approve this, then I think we're saying it's okay if every, building on this campus, on this civic center, it would be okay for them to have a similar type podium and viewing area of the orchard. I don't know if we're really okay with that. So I think we could be setting a precedent, and I think there's some unintended consequences to this decision. So we should think about that. So now I want to talk about the findings, also in the resolution written by staff. Finding A, the proposal meets the goals, policies, and objectives of the general plan. The Civic Center Master Plan, one of the items was the patrons enjoy the view to the orchard. It's appreciated. I use that quiet study area. I find that it's just golden. Like my house is distracting, the screens are distracting. I can go in there. It is really quiet and serene. And I sit next to those windows and I have this beautiful unobstructed view of the orchard. I did what you did, Richard, and I went in there and I said, okay, now when I look out, I'm going to see people having lunch, right? It's not going to be a quiet area. They're going to have their kids there. They're going to have their backs to me. They might be making noise. And I find that I think there's potential distractions and potential noise impacts to that quiet area. And so I feel like it's a degradation to the use on the inside of the library, particularly that quiet area. And I am concerned that the glass is going to get etched and dirty and it's going to obstruct the views into the orchard. The issues, goals, and policies in the Los Altos General Plan under Community Design says, Policy 1.1, preserve trees, especially heritage and landmark trees. Well, I don't think we're doing that if we're taking away sites for trees. Policy 6.2, the city shall regard demolition of landmark and historic resources listed in the historic resources inventory as a last resort. I like the idea of this patio, I really do. I just don't like that it's so large and it's overlapping with the historic orchard. So I don't think finding A can be made. Finding B, I won't read the whole thing. The proposal has architectural integrity and has an appropriate relationship with other structures. No other structure in the Civic Center has this modern look. The Civic Center buildings are kind of this rancho-esque architecture. They have these rolled deep eaves. They have rustic siding. They're very natural and kind of organic with these floor-to-ceiling picture windows. I think the proposed project is pretty modern. It's got a lot of, metal and glass. It's modern. It has a significant amount of hardscape. It's got this raised podium that is not at grade. And so I feel like those elements are not, they don't respect to the degree I would like to see the relationship with other structures. So I'm having a hard time making finding B. Finding C is, I won't read the whole thing, but it goes on to say the perceived bulk and mass of the addition doesn't overwhelm the existing library. I think that raised podium is very massive. It's a lot of concrete. It removes a lot of the trees, the camellias that are there. I think a typical patio is usually at grade, and so I would like to see something that is at grade that doesn't have the need for the fencing, because I don't really understand the purpose of the fencing. I can't make finding C. Finding D, I won't read the whole thing, but it says maintain consistency with the traditional architecture of the library. The project has been designed to be compatible with the existing library building, integrating both complementary materials and contemporary design elements. Well, the library is not modern or contemporary, even though this expansion, I think, reads as very contemporary. Again, I think the Civic Center buildings are kind of organic. They've got this rancho-esque kind of low-slung, natural design to them. And I think Maria mentioned the architect, and it's quite unique, and you see it on the Foothill College campus as well. It's unique to Los Altos in this area, and we're really covering it up with this design. So I want to support the project. I mean, I do think the library is wildly successful. It's busy all the time, and I often go in there and I can't find a place to sit down, and there is so much a need to expand and make more space for the people who love it and want to use it. But I'm concerned that this particular design isn't really going to help that much because it's outside, and I think it really isn't. I don't think it's doing service to the views and the orchard. So I would support this project, but only if the following changes were made. I would like to see the patio reduced. I would say 2,500 square feet with no overlap to the historic orchard. I would eliminate the elevated podium. I think it's just too massive, and it's just too much hardscape for the site. I would omit the fencing. I don't think there's really any need for the glass fencing. I think some fencing around the classroom area is appropriate because you do want to buffer the sound. But I think a lot of the fencing can be reevaluated. I would like to see more comfortable seating, but I understand that's flexible. And I guess I would like to just see a design that is a little more natural and earthy and more integrated by incorporating some of the existing design elements that you see in the library, like the arbors that are there, that are these beautiful, wooden arbors. Can we take those themes that are already there and expand them to create this outdoor space? So anyway, those are the things that I would propose. I'd like to see it come back if the other commissioners agree with some of the things I said.
All right, and I'm not sure if staff wants to respond to any of that, but maybe we should finish our commentary first and then come to you, or would you like to?
That's fine, we can comment and
Okay.
respond after.
Okay, Commissioner Steinle.
Yeah. I tend to agree with Richard and with Maris, what they say, particularly Maris's comments and Richard's enthusiasm, which I share. This is part of the library. This next library commissioner, and I'm looking at my old friends from those days here. The library is a special place, but this is part of the library we're talking about. We're putting up a wall around the library. That's the purpose of the wall. That's why we have people in, because they come to the library and do certain things, and we want to keep that. It is not part of the orchard. The orchard is part of the city, the library is part of the library, which is also part of the county. So I think that separation is an important one, intellectually as well as physically, or spiritually as well as physically. So that's number one. Number two, the architects must have been cringing at the thought of pastiche. The library is what it is. The building that was built in 1964 is what it is. We don't build buildings like that anymore, and we don't design that way. I think the whole purpose of this, the whole effect of this, is to stay out of the way of what is already there. That's why there's all the glass. That's why it's so transparent. You don't really see what's in between you and the building. So I'm not concerned by the modern aspect of that. I think that actually enhances rather than blocks the perspective. I think having the indoor-outdoor space, so to speak, is an excellent addition to the library, having the extra room, and so forth and so on. On the CEQA side, there are 2 points that I want to make. One, what CEQA protects is not the property, but the significance of the historical resource. That's a quotation from several places in CEQA. The significance of the orchard is not defined by how many square inches, square feet, square yards it is. It's defined by the layout of the trees and the ability of the trees to fruit and all those sorts of things that make an actual orchard. It is a working orchard. These are not ornamental trees. These are not shade trees. This is not a place where you go walking among the trees. In fact, the whole point is not to go walking among the trees. It is for the trees to fruit out and produce lovely apricots, which we all like. Okay, it is a working orchard whose purpose is to produce a commercial product. Okay, that's the legacy of Los Altos. That's what we are celebrating with the orchard. And the historical significance of that is that it still does it, and this is the place where Farmer Smith started out in 19 something or other. It's, I think, more like 1905 than 1901, but that's neither here nor there, okay? And so, and I will say, too, is that those who have gone back and looked at the actual history of this, our city fathers in 1952 and 57, when they made the deal, couldn't wait to build on the orchard. There used to be, there's a lovely book that's in the library, there are about 17 copies of it. A little book of reminiscences. It's about 50 pages long by a former person who was here in the 30s and the 40s, graduated from Los Altos Grammar School in 1948 or 9 or something like that, who pointed out there used to be orchards along Los Altos Avenue. She lived just up the street on San Antonio. Her house had an orchard on one side, an orchard on the other, and an orchard behind. People didn't have fences. They had orchards, okay? Every kid in Los Altos in those days worked in the orchards at the time that the fruit came out. That was the common experience for everybody. Nobody has that anymore, okay? That wasn't that long ago, right? So that part of Los Altos is what that orchard represents. And it's still supposed to be doing it. I suppose too bad Jane Packard isn't here. She could lead a bunch of high school kids to do the fruit, I suppose. Although Jolie would get very upset because there'd be liability issues up and down the line. But it's a good idea nonetheless. Okay, so that's what we're protecting, if you will. That's what we want to see. That's what you want to. That's why we have to have all that glass. And when you look at the buildings, Lacey was built in 1960. It was the first building after the Smith House. The only building in this entire place that was there in 1960 up until then was the Smith House and the barn, which has now been changed into the History Museum. Lacey doesn't look out on the orchard, it looks out on the parking lot. The library looks out on the other parking lot. It has the nice windows in the back that look out over the orchard. That's great, okay? This building, which was the last to be built, it was they specifically reserved space for this building. This building, I'm not sure what it doesn't look out on the orchard, let's put it that way, all right? The city, when it built things, sort of turned their back on the orchard. We celebrate the orchard because there's not that much of it left. At the time, too, there were more trees, okay? Now we have fewer trees. We have the orchard. It's fairly defined. It's the orthogonal arrangement, et cetera, all that was mentioned in the report. And it's that significance, what it represents in terms of the history of the city, that is preserved, okay? It doesn't matter how many trees there are. It does, but it really doesn't matter whether it's 500 trees or 495 trees or whatever. Okay, so we're getting distracted from what we're actually, I think, supposed to be considering here. So that's my take. I think that I think it is a very good and I think is a very appropriate addition to the library. It is the libraries, they get to do it. All the furniture, all the furnishings, all the things that are going to be there are going to be chosen by, purchased by, maintained by the library for all of us. And they've done a pretty good job so far. I'm inclined to let them continue that way. Okay? So that's my thought. I'm very much in favor of this.
All right, thank you. I have a few thoughts, and then I'd like to engage in a discussion to see where we are. But first, I wanted to state my biases. So I strongly support both the library and the historic orchard. Our kids grew up going to the library frequently, which was many years ago, but you know, and it was crowded back then. It's even more crowded now, as many of us have visited recently to observe the project. I've had family members who owned orchards in Silicon Valley and did very well. Fortunately, it wasn't my side of the family, but you know, just love the orchards that have been preserved in Sunnyvale and in Saratoga, as well as here in Los Altos. And I hope that we continue to maintain that legacy. I'd love to see even more educational efforts and programming around the orchard. And I think this patio could potentially serve in that role in some ways. Something that I don't think has come up tonight is this started with a super generous donation from the Chow family. And I really want to thank them. I don't think they're here tonight, but for making this gift. I believe it was $500,000, if I'm not mistaken. That is a large amount of money for any of us. And, you know, between that and the work of Lale to make this not come out of the taxpayers' pockets, I think is very generous. And just want you to know, I've heard from residents who appreciate that, and I don't think that's been stated enough. So just wanted to put that out there as well. We've gotten a lot of public comment. I'd call it dozens of comments. In some cases, you know, 10 comments from a single individual. And, you know, that's super helpful to us as commissioners as we look at this. We're all volunteers, and that input is very valuable. The conversations I've had with members of the public as well as staff and others involved has been very helpful as well. I've been to the site multiple times in the past, as well as yesterday I went as well when there was a break in the rain, and just hung out for an hour to observe exactly what's going on there. And it was really interesting. I was the only person who was enjoying the space that I would consider the currently proposed project, but it reminded me, I hadn't been inside in a while, walking along that row, and every seat inside the windows was taken by somebody reading, somebody working on a computer and enjoying the space. And I think we can take some of that outside, as is shown in one of the drawings there. So that was very helpful. A ton of work by the architects and Lale staff to come up with this design. And you know, one of the reasons I joined the Planning Commission was because I saw residents, in some cases, being extorted by members of council to lower their chimney 8 inches or move their house 3 feet back from the street and lose 3 feet in their backyard. And I was offended by that as a resident, that that could be done. So I'm going to be very careful with my design feedback as a member of the Planning Commission. The other thing that was really helpful was to go back and watch the videos. I attended or watched remotely the 2 meetings in 2023, but I went back and watched, in particular, the November meeting and the discussion with council, and probably watched the vote and the motion by now Mayor Daley with input from others probably 5 or 6 times, just to make sure I really understood what they said. And I'm disappointed with some of the misinformation and disinformation that's been spread within the city. In 2023, the city council voted to approve the use of the Civic Center property in the location designated in the materials. This is a quote from Mayor Daley now. The materials they received for a library patio and should go through the normal process once there is a project. There was not a project at that time. So saying the project was X feet back then and it's now Y feet is not true. There was no project back then, and the city council made it very clear. There was also clear direction from the council to mitigate as much as possible, and this is an exact quote, the impact on the historic orchard boundaries and or trees. Did not say you can't impact the boundaries and or the trees. It said, please minimize the impact. And I think great care has gone into that with the members of the architecture team as well as with Lale in order to not take out trees. Yes, some impact to potential planting sites, which my understanding is trees have attempted to be planted there and they have failed because of the drainage issues, or it's a very shady area, very close to the library building, so that could be part of it. But to say that this did not go through a rigorous process, it went through multiple meetings with city council before there even was a project where they said, yes, you can impact the historic orchard, and yes, you can take out trees, but we'd like you to minimize that. Then countless hours of work afterwards to define the project, and now, you know, historical review and project review by the two commissions. So it was funny, one resident at that point in time in 2023 argued that this project should not be before the council, it should be before the planning commission, and recently argued that it should not be before the planning commission, it should be before the council. So you can't have it both ways. I think all the bodies have chimed in on this, and there's a lot of speculation about various issues, and you know, I haven't seen evidence that the project shouldn't move forward. So I'm supportive of it. There are a few things that I'd like to, you know, discuss with the group. I think this notion of a central area for gatherings, along with a long, narrow area for other activities, I think that's a very useful combination. I can picture, you know, a grandmother bringing a child for story time and maybe getting a cup of coffee and walking down, you know, along the path while the story time is going on, and enjoying it in that aspect. I can imagine people coming for coffee when there's not an event going on and just hanging out on the patio. Just as all those people were lined up in the study carol section, I can see them, you know, lined up outside as well. I think Commissioner Ahi had some good points about, you know, are things we can do to improve that programming. You know, unlike Commissioner Ahi, I'm sure many of you have seen the Grand Canyon observation deck. It's a very controversial thing. It's super modern. It's a cantilevered half donut going out over the canyon. I've never been on it because I'm not sure I would want to go out on a glass cantilevered thing. Luckily, we're not considering that. But it brings me back to, you know, could this be some sort of observation area? And you know, one of the things I noticed yesterday was the sign as you approach from San Antonio Road. There's a big sign saying this is the historic orchard. You know, I don't know if the library would consider maybe some informational displays along that glass wall that would, you know, explain various aspects of the orchard. This is where J. Gilbert Smith planted the first apricot tree. This is where he first milked a cow, or whatever the things might be. I think, you know, it's like when you're up on the Empire State Building, there's a map of the city and it points out the other buildings. Like that could be kind of a cool historical thing that people could walk through. I was a lot of concerns from the public about the pews being permanent, and I think those issues were settled with the discussion around the flexible use of space and the furniture and all that sort of stuff. I thought the metal gate is really cool with the orchard themed design. I think that is an excellent, you know, as I was coming from this building walking towards the library, that'll be the focal point as you're approaching the patio. So I thought that was really good. Again, I'm going to be careful with my design feedback. I'm not a huge fan of the Corten steel fence around the circular area. When I first saw it, it reminded me of those temporary fences that people put around swimming pools in order to keep the kids from, you know, falling in and drowning. And I know it's much more solid and permanent than that. And so I was originally thinking, well, why didn't they just do glass the whole way, all the way around? And I imagine there's some cost considerations. I think that's the opposite of what Commissioner Ahi was thinking about. But, my bias was toward continuing the board formed concrete all the way along, and then having the ornamental gate in the in the middle, and continuing with the glass. But I think it's up to you. If you guys think that's the ideal thing to do, then I don't know that I'm in a position to go against it. But I do think there's some issues brought up by some of the commissioners where maybe a discussion would be helpful. But I also wanted to make sure staff had an opportunity to chime in on some of the CEQA stuff or otherwise. So that's the end of my comments, but why don't we go to staff momentarily, just so we can have input before we get into our discussion about what sorts of things we might be interested in discussing.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. So I want to point out a couple facts that are already in the record. So Ms. Wheeler provided written testimony, which is included into the Planning Commissioner packet, which actually helps to clarify the size of the space. I want to further, though, clarify and reiterate what's in the CEQA document. Is in concluding a CEQA analysis, you have to take into account everything that is being touched, manipulated, repaired, restored, everything as a part of it. So with that being said, 2,300 square feet of the project is actually the sidewalks. Existing sidewalks that are going to be removed and replaced with ADA compliant pathways. So the project actually you could reduce by 2,300 square feet. By virtue of the fact that that space already exists today, it will remain in place, and that's a part of it. The actual courtyard permeable paver area is just under 3,600 square feet. Again, this is all detailed in Ms. Wheeler's email that she provided the commissioners in order to be able to provide all of the details necessary that are relevant that are also included in the plans. So with that, I also further want to clarify, based on Commissioner Disney's concern about the podium, or really what is the retaining wall that is backfilled and then leveled off to be a level walking area. From the west end to where essentially where the enclosure is of all of the HVAC equipment today to the end of the walkway, there is actually a 2-foot minimum grade change. So it would actually be impossible to meet building code compliance standards without creating some type of a leveled off backfill retaining wall type structure immediately adjacent to this area in order to actually get full level area.
Can I ask? It's 2 feet down from the storage area to
sloping downwards.
Okay.
If you saw it from this area during the daytime, you'd actually very clearly be able to see the grade change in transition.
Okay.
So one thing I would have leaned on Jennifer from the county library system to say is there is also a safety concern, not just with the grade change, although that is a building code compliance requirement to have essentially a guardrail or perimeter barrier between the two grades. There is also the fact is that these are going to be young, small children, and it's not a 1-to-1 ratio with who's watching them, essentially. They're going to be participative in a class, so there does need to be essentially somewhat of an area to be able to act as a barrier so that the kids are kind of in one area and being able to be manageable as a part of the classes and programming that will occur outside in this new potential space. What I further, though, want to clarify is the CEQA analysis. And CEQA is an extremely complex, ever-evolving thing as, we get new CEQA guidelines every year as they're updated from changes and updates from the legislature. But as a part of the comprehensive CEQA analysis, as detailed in the CEQA patio memorandum, it confirmed that the project qualifies for the categorical exemption under the CEQA guidelines. The reason why that is important to state very clearly is under the CEQA guidelines is the interpretation of the working professionals that are CEQA experts, but also then in lay terms of the individuals and people within the city. Courts have, among various things, have been instructed as a part of case law to refrain from reading into CEQA statute guidelines in terms that do not exist, and to refrain from creating procedural or substantive requirements beyond those expressly required in CEQA statute and guidelines. So with that being said, based on recent case law, is the CEQA analysis does comply for the categorical exemption of a Class 1 and a Class 3 under the definitions and guidelines provided under CEQA. And so that has been a fully detailed analysis. Additionally, I do want to at least point out is that a cumulative impact analysis was completed as a part of this. CEQA analysis rigorously evaluated the potential cumulative impacts comparing this project with other ongoing developments in the Civic Center, and it did conclude that the impacts remain below a significance threshold. And that is the key point, is to under CEQA guidelines, is that there are levels of significance, and we have not triggered that as a part of this project or other projects on the Civic Center campus. And that is kind of the quick and easy kind of comments in regards to the CEQA, but happy to further explain, and I think the city attorney wants to mention something as well.
There was a comment tonight by one of the commissioners that you needed to be vigilant, and if you approve this project, that somehow you would be having to approve other patios or other encroachments on other, in or around other buildings in the Civic Center. And that's really not accurate. It would be, every project would be analyzed on its own. And so, you know, in land use decisions, it's a case by case, property by property. That's why there's findings made, because it's not a one size fit all. So I just don't want people to think that approving this patio means we're going to have patios everywhere. So it would all have to go through design review and CEQA review.
All right, thank you. So I think, you know, as a group, there are some concerns, and I wanted to rely somewhat on Commissioner Ahi, if I could, to help us out with this. So, you know, you are the professional architect, and I'm curious, based on the input you've heard from the various members of the commission, do you see a path forward for us here? And if so, could you help us get there, if it makes sense?
Yeah, I think for me, I think there's two things specifically. There's the kind of the steel mesh fence and the glass wall. I think it's this idea of kind of saying that we want people to sit here and reflect and look out onto the orchard, and so that's why we're going to make it see-through. And I think it just feels forced. I think if I want to reflect on the orchard, I'll just go walk to the orchard. I don't think I need glass to reflect on it. So I think from that standpoint, it just doesn't feel, it just feels forced. And I think that, you know, I hate receiving design comments, so I feel like a hypocrite giving design comments. But the problem is that we saw what this patio could be in November of 2023. And unfortunately, there was comments given and the design changed to what it is now. And so it's less about me kind of giving feedback and kind of being a jerk about design comments. It's more about being like, let the architects be architects. We know what you guys can do. You know, just, you know, go back to what works for the library and what works for that space. And so I think if we can give feedback and have them come back, even though the only reason I say come back is because it's not going to council. So if they were to come back and then the historical issue would be put to the side, the footprint would be settled. There's no discussion about the project itself. It's just about these minor design changes. Then I think we could have this approved at the next meeting for sure. So that's where I'm looking right now. There's also Susan's not here, so I think we already don't have 7 commissioners, so I feel like her input would be valuable.
What
Yeah.
was what aspect of the design from November 2023? What changed? With regards to the glass wall and the court and
I
steel?
think it was larger, which I liked. There was more seating. I
Larger
think it
away
was,
from the building, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't want to ask them to make it bigger because that's But I think there was just more seating, more options, more flexibility. It seemed like a really enjoyable space for people that are going to the library. I think that the patio space, the classroom, being closed off, I think felt more secure. It felt more safe. It felt more protected. And it just felt like a usable patio space that could be used by a variety of people for many, many years. So I think this just feels, and I don't mean offense to this, but this feels very kind of like dog park-ish as far as the kind of the fence that surrounds it. And I hate that I said that because, again, I don't like giving design feedback because but that's the thing is I really liked what was presented in November of 2023. So I think if there's an understanding that we want the architects to really just let them be architects, then I think that would be a good starting point.
Could I ask Mr. Sutherland, could you speak to the feedback you got in November 2023 that led to the changes that resulted in this current design briefly?
Yes, I can. Is this on?
It is on.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, the idea that we had was that you would be able to walk along that fence and see different angles and see out into the orchard. But if you were at one angle looking into the courtyard, you wouldn't be able to see into the courtyard. And there was a lot of pushback on that. Everybody wanted it transparent from inside and out. I wouldn't say everybody, but we got a lot of pushback that was the desire. And so this is what we came up with as an alternative. If we're just talking about fencing, I mean, the reading nooks, yes, they were much larger and the seating was much more activated and engaging and would have been great, but we were respectful of the orchard and made it smaller.
And that was feedback from council as well as the public at that point in time?
Well, mostly council, but
Okay.
in response to public comment. So moving forward, the challenge would be, what do you want us to do?
Right.
Because we've gone 360 degrees and we need to know where we want to go. I'm sure you and I could sit down and come up with a great idea, but would it be acceptable to everybody else?
Yeah. And
Chair?
one of my, go ahead.
I just want to sort of caution everybody. I mean, in 2023, it wasn't a project. It was a concept plan. It was
Sure.
wasn't a project. It was, can you use the land? And if the city lets you use the land, they wanted to show something there, but it wasn't a project.
But there was a conceptual design,
Yeah, so it was intended to be more of a placeholder. It was also something that I do know that Lolly was initially using to kind of somewhat get a little bit of an understanding of what materials what it would cost them, because they also do have their own board that they need to go back and forth to kind of discuss the financials essentially.
Right.
Because as we know, there's potentially a $2 million patio that is going to come out of an endowment. With that being said, so staff would not really be supportive of modifying the footprint because that is the specific CEQA analysis that took into account. So I would not recommend that be a part of the discussion or recommendation because that's just not what the analysis actually did. Additionally, what I would recommend is that if we are talking about that the perimeter footprint is what it is, and we're only talking about design material changes, that is something that the commission can provide as a condition of approval for us to be able to kind of move forward with, as that is you know, we know what the footprint and the lay is going to be, you know, for the site. So we obviously have a few different materials already that are a part of the project. So what would the commission like to see further integrated through the design as a part of way to have a path forward?
Yeah. Because, you know, Commissioner Hahi, one of my concerns is if we you know, take another turn at this and it eventually ends up back at council due to appeal or otherwise from either the applicant or someone else, you know, we may be back to council changing the design that we just spent another meeting, you know, going through. And so, like, I think some of what Assistant City Manager Zorns just stated was we could potentially approve it subject to, you know, working with staff to refine the glass wall or the corten steel or something else. Because I also have concerns about changing the footprint because there's already been direction from City Council on the footprint and encroachment and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, the footprint is perfectly fine.
Yep.
And I think that the design as a whole, I think, is fine. I think if there was just some modifications to that fence and to the glass to the point where it just felt more private and maybe more secure, you know, I trust staff. I trust Director Zorns that, you know, staff can handle that discussion as far as how to make it more private. I just think that the intent of the mesh fence was to overlook the orchard, and I think that that just shouldn't be the basis of the design. I think that the basis should be what's the best fence for this outdoor classroom. And I think if that's the discussion between the landscape architects and staff, then I feel pretty confident with approving it tonight and letting them kind of figure out those details. I just don't think that the same thing with the glass. I think if there's just a more refined discussion of what is the best barrier for safety, for the library, for people sitting there, that should be paramount as to let's have people reflect on the orchard. I don't think that should be like the number one sticking point with design. I don't think that should ever be the sticking point with a design like this.
How do other commissioners feel on this particular aspect?
I'm fine with what you two were just, sorry. I'm fine with what you two have both said. I think that there's substantial agreement that, well, everything can always be better, right? This is a relatively, I'm going to say this casually for the architects, relatively modest thing for them to do. And they already actually have done it. I mean, this is the point, is they have stuff and you can do some working on that. And I think that it doesn't add to the time and the burden, but we will end up with a better product if they've had a chance to look at that. And of course, Nick and his people are really good at doing this too. So, you know, I'm confident going forward in that way.
How about the other two commissioners?
I can go along with what Eric said, and this maybe could be a softer color, maybe instead of stainless, maybe it could be a light brown that goes with the wood color siding. I agree, because we're now looking at a stainless steel fence through it, and security is number one. The people in there is our concern, and that's really what we should, this is secure. You've done an awesome job, and it's going through, I wanted to see what it looked like in 23. I can see why you don't, but that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Disney?
Well, I think I'm the minority. I don't get the deal with the security because, I mean, God forbid if a kid runs into the dirt and touches an apricot. I mean, that'd be kind of a nice problem. I don't understand. I mean, I think the noise from San Antonio, you know, that's the biggest problem. I don't know why you need any fencing at all. I really don't. I don't know. I don't see the security issue. And I had two, you know, free-range chicken kids that ran everywhere, and I you know, what a wonderful place to let them just run around and eat some dirt. So I don't get the fencing. I'd like to eliminate the fencing. And I mean, honestly, I guess, and I've said this already, the biggest issue I have with this whole project is that podium. Because I think that to me feels like something slapped on to the side of that building. Whereas the pergola does feel like this separate room that has kind of been carved out in the orchard for, you know, story time or whatever programming might occur. So I guess if we could say, and I don't think I'm going to be able to convince you, if we could say eliminate the fencing, you know, and just focus on maybe some sound barriers and you know, get rid of the podium, because that's not a comfortable place to sit and read a book. I'd be happy with that.
Could I ask Ms. Weeks to speak to the why you need a fence, if you do need a fence?
Certainly. So I appreciate, you know, the idea. However, we are near a busy street, and while we are a big public open space, we want people to feel secure in our spaces, and it's our responsibility to really put up, you know, the space enhancers to make that happen. And so having a barrier between, you know, again, with a number of, you know, 75 children and the excitement that is, our team really feels that they can provide a more secure environment for everyone to have that barrier in place.
Understood. Thank you. So I'm not sure if you were conceding that you might be okay with the glass as is, but you know, potentially direct staff to work on changes to the circular area fence, or you want changes to the whole thing. I mean, ideally, probably both, I would guess, but.
Yeah, I think again, it's just if there was a new thinking about that space and that glass, and it was no longer this idea of let's put something that people can reflect to see the orchard, but let's think of what's the best barrier for that wall, then I think maybe you'd see some different options. So I think it's from that standpoint. If that truly is the best thing for that reading nook, then I think obviously I'll trust what the architects and what staff say, but I think there's better options if we're thinking about that space.
Was the glass intended to for the people inside the building so that their view was not obstructed, or for people on the walkway for their, you know, in the benches?
It's for unobstructed views out of the library and out of the reading nooks into the orchard. And if I could comment on
Please.
your last comment. I get architecturally what you're saying about how the library courtyard is a standalone, or maybe not standalone, but it is a separate item. But really integrating this courtyard so it functions as a cross functionality with the orchard and maybe creates some interest, like Freddie said, is really part of Lolly's goal. We don't want to just make it we're the library and we're in our enclosure and you guys stay out there and we'll stay in here. We want that transparency. I think we believe it's beneficial too. So I think, you know, when we came back with this new idea, we rethought it and thought, yeah, this is great. It really does draw people out into the orchard, and maybe it'll draw people into the library too, but we think it has benefit for both.
All right. So I think we're going to hit pause on that for one moment, and then I did want to address the issue around the trees that you brought up. So I was concerned to hear that, you know, a bunch of trees were going to be taken out, and it was unclear exactly how many. So does staff have a count of how many of those trees are actually going to be removed? And I'm not talking about apricot trees in the orchard. I'm talking about the ones closest to the building.
The camellias.
The camellias.
There's
and
about 22 of them.
Are 22 are being removed, or there are 22?
I counted 22.
By the emergency exit?
All the way, the whole side it's about 22.
So the camellias aren't protected because they're not trees, they're shrubs. So they don't qualify for protection. So, but there are 3 trees that are proposed for removal. They're indicated on the plan set, I believe.
3 non-camellias that are
Correct.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. And non-apricot.
Can I say
Correct.
something?
Non-apricot. Yes.
Can I just say something about camellias?
Sure.
If you let them go, if you're lucky enough to have them, be successful in your garden, they do grow to be like a tree, and they grow so slow. And they are finicky plants, and when they are big and beautiful, they are worth protecting. I know it's not a tree, but they're spectacular. I mean, I love to garden. I don't have any camellia that looks like any of these, sadly. So I think they're pretty special.
All right. So I don't know that we can get there right now, but I don't know. I was going to ask Maris if you had language for a motion that might be able to pass, or if you do not. I mean, it would essentially be deferring to staff to work through the commission's concerns around the glass wall and the court and steel wall. But
Yeah.
But I hear you saying more private for that, and I hear others saying more open for that. So
Well, I
kind of
think
contradictory.
I think I understand what the landscape architect was saying about kind of finding that balance and wanting to kind of keep those views of the orchard. So I think that the glass wall maybe is less of a kind of an issue with kind of what the comments we received tonight. I think really though that classroom, I don't think the mesh steel works practically. I think that it should be more secure. So I think if that space had like maybe a more secure fence, but also still kept with the ideas of reflecting onto the orchard and something along those lines, I think that would be fine if we wanted to send it to staff.
I have a question for you. Can
Just 1 second. What material would be
I don't.
more secure yet more transparent? I'm confused by that.
I mean that's kind of the thing is I don't, unless it comes back, I don't really feel comfortable giving specific comments on like what materials they should use.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I ask a question? So if the issue is really security and young children, maybe the issue really is more the height. Like if you brought the height down, it's less of a visual element. It still offers the security, but it's just not as massive if it's if it's half the height. I wonder if that would satisfy everyone.
What's the current height?
Well, I'm just looking at the renderings.
6 feet.
6 feet.
For the court and steel?
Yes.
And is there a code around that, or it's arbitrary?
That was an appropriate height.
That's the maximum we would.
Yeah.
So you're saying half of that?
Well, I wonder if, if 3 feet would satisfy the need for the security.
Please.
I mean, you're not going to have books there.
From a
right?
standpoint of children being in a space, if you were to use playground standards, it would have to be a minimum of 4 feet. And we had lengthy discussions with the library, and everybody felt like it needed to be higher to really keep the kids inside. And I'm hearing you say, and you want the more of a privacy. So I don't know how we get that by lowering the fence.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I think the height of the fence is fine. I think that everyone, for me, it's security and it's privacy. I think a lot of families with young children are going to be in that space. I think that having it be completely see-through, with those audiovisual equipment kind of pushing sound out into the orchard, I think it just needs to feel a little bit more contained. And so just instead of the mesh, if it was just something maybe slightly more kind of opaque. Yeah, exactly. I think that would help a lot. The space isn't even pointed towards the orchard. It's to the back. And so I think that, that's the view from behind. So it's, and there's doors right there that open onto the orchard. So I think it's just about securing that curve, making it a little bit more opaque so that people in there feel a little bit more safe. And that's honestly, that's pretty much.
Is there a material that comes to mind that might accomplish that?
Well, there's other meshes that we could use. We don't want to use wood because of the longevity, and the quality of wood nowadays is so short-lived.
So the preference
that's
is
why
for
we
metal?
use Corten, is because over time it will start to look like a wood post. We could use a more substantial post to make it look bigger. We could use that mesh that we have is a 70%. It allows 70% of light, or it's 70% open, 30% solid. So we could go to a different mesh. There's punch steels. There's lots of different things we could do with that. But again, we have to balance with the transparency that the library and Lolly desired.
Yep. I'm going to attempt something now just to see if this is a trial motion, but I'd like to move that we approve the project. I have the resolution here, so I won't go through the details. With the feedback to staff to look at reducing the transparency of the circular portion of the patio. If that were the motion, would that satisfy some of the concerns?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if, I think you're a no matter what, probably, or, yeah, okay. So.
I'll second the motion if you want. If you want to make that the motion.
Staff, would that be enough direction to staff in order to work on the Corten seal side of things? That's sufficient?
Okay, then I will second the motion.
All right. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Disney?
No.
Commissioner Steinle?
Yes.
Commissioner Ahi?
Yes.
Vice Chair Roche?
Yes.
Chair Beninado?
Yes.
Motion carries with Commissioner Disney in opposition.
All right. Thank you. And thank you all for your patience. I think we were trying hard not to design, even though we did somewhat design, but I don't think we specified. I think we'll leave it in the hands of the project team as well as staff to come up with something. So thank you very much. Why don't I give everyone a minute? If people want to clear out, you're welcome to, but otherwise we are going to move on to the remainder of the, we'll just take 1 second here. I think we only have a few minutes of work on the work plan. So
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Was your son in
We
troop
appreciate it.
37? Was your son in troop 37? Yes. Yeah, Simon. What was your Peter, right? Yeah. I know. So were we.
We were trying. Hey, Stephanie, should we take a 5-minute recess? Okay, we're in recess for 5 minutes.
Interesting meeting.
Sorry, I thought someone wanted to
Interesting
stretch their
meeting.
legs right now. I wasn't trying to force you. Oh, no, but
Yeah, I mean, I could tell they wanted.
Well, he graduated in business.
the thing too.
No, I think.
Well, and I mean, if you have ideas,
Yeah.
as a resident,
Yeah.
you should be chatting with those guys. And I'm gonna use the restroom later.
That was the connection, because I remember Robin Kidd saying, oh, Lisa Cohen has all this stuff. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because I remember going to your house, I never met you. He was younger, okay.
Whatever fits in the microwave.
He graduated in, wait a minute. My daughter was 28, yes, so 2019, it was the next year they didn't have a graduation. Yeah, I missed, yes. Did he go to Los Altos High? Yeah. Oh, they were in the same, class. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
That was my very first
Yeah, I remember. It's hard to control it and find it.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah, we forgot it. Yeah.
So you weren't assigned.
All right, why don't we get back to business here?
Yeah. Thank you for
Can we get everyone seated and back to business? We need the assistant city manager back. All right, do we need Nick for this next item, or has he left the building? Yes, he does. All right, should we go back on the record here? Oh, there he is. Okay, we are back in session, and we're going to move on to the next item, item 3, the Planning Commission work plan. So I wasn't sure if staff had a few words you wanted to say about the work plan, or if you just wanted us to debate and discuss, or what would you like to do?
We don't have a presentation, but I did. You did review the draft work plan on October 17th of
Yes.
last year. There was discussion, no requested changes, and on February 25th, there will be a joint commission meeting with the City Council for presentation of the work plan, along with 2 other commissions. It's
Eric said we follow the government code.
Yeah, that pretty much was our work plan.
All right, so are there any thoughts from any of the commissioners about the work plan, changes, additions, subtractions?
Just to be clear, so there's a meeting.
Could you use your microphone?
There's a meeting on the 25th, a joint meeting with just the Planning Commission and the City Council.
Yes, it was
And-
noticed.
There will be 2 other commissions. So council meets with all of the commissions and looks at their work plans.
Okay, so it's with 3 commissions at the same time?
Well,
Success-
sequentially.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, not, okay, so can you tell us when our meeting is, what time it is?
It's on February 25th.
You all have to be here at 6. You don't get an exact time slot.
I see, okay, so it's at 6,
Are,
okay.
are all commissioners required to attend, or I think you don't have to attend. I was just going to present the work plan, and if council has feedback on it, they can provide it, but you're welcome
Yeah,
to
no.
show up as well.
Yeah.
So we had talked, can I speak to this item?
Yeah.
So we had talked about doing some drive-bys, assessing projects that have been built in neighboring cities to see sort of what seems to be working as a good project in these post, housing law era. So I'd like kind of some feedback on that. Like, is there still an interest in that? And then my second suggestion is maybe I'd like to suggest that we have a study session specifically to look at how state laws that require cities to provide waivers and concessions, how do they come into play? And what's the threshold of BMR units that trigger these benefits in local zoning, and when do they come into play? So for example, if you have a development project with 15% BMR units and another one has 35% BMR units, what's the difference in concessions and waivers, if any? So I'd like to kind of get more insights on that.
All right.
It's just density bonus law. I know we've done some training on density bonus law but for your concessions, it depends on how many units. And then there's a chart and you go look at it. You don't have anything to do with it. It's you, if they provide 20% or they provide 30%, then you look in the government code 65915, I think, and then it's like 15 pages, but you go down the line and it will tell you what your density bonus is. And then because you've provided density bonus, you get waivers, but we're off topic.
So we can plan. So we already planned on. I think we mentioned to you all that we were going to do a CEQA training. We can plan on doing a high-level overview over what density bonus law is, because one of the programs that is still left that we need to amend is to do additional density bonus regulations that go above and beyond state law, which is what's in our housing element for specialized housing types. So for specifically like to help incentivize the creation of individuals with disabilities as well as like veterans and so on and so forth, because those are also components of density bonus. So we can kind of go over that on a high level, but as Julie has mentioned, is that it is essentially a sliding scale. And actually, just to somewhat answer, just so you can kind of have a little bit of understanding, is you can have 15% or have 35%, and you're still going to get entitled to the same amount of waivers and concessions, depending on how deep of affordability the 15% is over the 30%.
Let's not tackle it now. But I think
No, but
some training,
it's good to have a little bit of an understanding. So
some
that's
training
all that it was.
So would we include that in the work plan, or is that at a level below the work plan?
So yeah, the trainings aren't really necessary. These are for things that are actual actionable items that we would actually need to take up.
Okay.
So yeah, we can just bring that back. We were intending on the CEQA one, but we can add density bonus.
I'd appreciate that. And Julie, what was the code that you just rattled off there?
65915 is density bonus law.
All right, so let's cover that one in the training in the future agenda items, and we can talk about when we're going to do that. But I agree on the site visits, and we had talked about maybe going down First Street and looking at some stuff. But again, I don't know if that raises to the level of going into the work plan. But I think I would like to do that. So are there would you guys be open to that? I see one head nodding.
Yeah, I was gonna mention it during the commissioner reports actually.
Okay.
But we can wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but that wouldn't be in the work plan, is that?
No.
Okay.
And I think that given the attitude that the council has, I think, correctly taken to work plans, the simpler the better.
Okay.
Yep. So.
It would be a notice meeting.
Okay. Any other suggestions for the work plan?
You mentioned the housing element, and my concern with, we had the recent project off of El Camino. Maybe I shouldn't mention specific ones. And there was discussion about the allocation of the low-income unit, which happened to be, near the stairs of the elevator or on top of the refrigerator or something. And the level of income, the rent, and I believe that was, Stephanie, you made a comment that their state is changing some of those regs that relate to the rent, to the percentage. Wrong word.
I don't remember that.
So I think the project that you're referring to, there were some specific things that I'm already starting to kind of figure out how to circle about, because that would be something that I really don't want to make. There's not really a hard and fast. A lot of what we've done up until now with the housing element, it's pretty prescriptive. With updating our inclusionary housing ordinance, actually, that there are some tweaks that we could do that would help to refine and make it more objective in the future. And that's something that we can bring back. But again, that's actually a part of the all-encompassing housing element implementation. That is another program that we have to bring up. So those are kind of the two things I've mentioned are things that are coming up.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so that's already in the work plan, or it is? Okay. All right, anything else on the work plan? Or, I mean, I thought it was fine as is, but was happy to add something or change it. All right, do we need to make a motion or do anything on the work plan, or? Oh, are we doing public comment on the work plan? Okay, please. Up to 3 minutes. And thank you for staying late night with us.
Okay, just for the record, I'm Jim Wing, I live on Miralton Road. I want you to make the circulation element in the code a priority. There are going to be some serious changes coming to Los Altos. Probably the most serious is the county roads and airport is going to eliminate the 4 of the intersection slip turns along Foothill Expressway. Basically, they have the right of way to really mitigate that for them, but Los Altos does not. And this is going to cause congestion in all of our center, because they're going to do Woodlands, they're going to do Rancho, they're going to do Maine, and they're going to do Edith. And again, here the interchange at El Monte is the prototype. And this is done part of the bicycle plan. Their plans are all done. All they're waiting for now is Major B funding. Also, we're going to get some changes in downtown. There is going to be a minor gym put in right in the center of downtown sometime this next year. Of course, we have the housing, but that's kind of a really a minor issue, as it turns out, in terms of circulation. But, and we do have congestion. We know the First and Main congestion. We know the congestion out here. And there are things that can be done. They've been brought up sporadically. Now, unfortunately, the Complete Streets Master Plan ignored the downtown, ignored circulation. It is mainly for safe route to school, pedestrians, this type of thing. So nobody has really touched this in a long time, and we don't really have the staff who has maybe the experience to get into it. Because remember, when you work circulation, particularly in Los Altos, it's whack-a-mole. You change one thing here, it just moves over there. That makes it a severe design challenge. But I think that needs to be brought up, at least somehow provide some firm guidance and maybe priority guidance to staff as they do their work. So again, the circulation element, which actually the state mandates that you're responsible for, it's time to bring it up. I've tried this in years past, didn't work. So hopefully it'll work this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wing. Can I ask staff, is that included in our work plan somewhere, the circulation element?
Yes, it would be included in the comprehensive general plan update.
All right. Sound good? All right. We good on this item? Then let's move on to commissioner reports. I don't know if you wanted to speak to something around that.
So I had a little bit of free time over the holiday, and I'm putting together something that kind of shows the projects on First Street with when they came with their presentation and then what was built. Is it possible for a commissioner to present maybe those findings at a meeting so I can maybe educate the commission and the public about it, so that way we don't necessarily have to go visit the sites. I can kind of just explain, and I can present it.
I think that would be a discussion item, right?
Yeah, we could agendize that as a discussion item, but also as an aside, we were, based on your previous request, planning on a downtown kind of walking tour on First Street.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe we should do this first and then go walk, or would the opposite be better? What do you guys-
Whichever.
Well, I really like this idea because it's like you're really getting into a concrete project because
Yeah.
we stay at these high level abstract, and it's like it doesn't really help you get better. So I love this idea. of
There's
just
three
looking at-
projects
yeah.
on First Street in particular that are finished, and I was on the commission when they came through. So I just felt like before my before my term's up, maybe I can just present some of them and we can just have a general discussion about, and not to be like, this is why this sucks now and why, but more so of like, this is why things change from when the rendering looks like and what the final
And
building
I like
looks
the idea
like.
of hearing from you before we do the walk.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's kind of a potential future agenda item, but so can we, maybe Q2, can we do something on that?
Yes.
Right now we're in Q3 for what we do.
Who hired this guy?
Can we buy them lunch?
When does Q1 end?
Well, on my calendar, Q1 ends at the end of March. I don't know about yours, but
Yeah, so I don't know. We could,
how about sometime in the next 4 months? Could we possibly do something with that? Are you ready to go?
No, I can send it to staff, and then staff can let me know when it's best for them.
All right. Should we give you a deadline?
Yeah, maybe. I'm ready.
Whatever.
Yeah.
No, it's super generous of you to do that. So,
Yeah.
I think we have to make him a subcommittee.
yeah, sometime this spring, I think would be good.
Sometime this spring.
Okay. So, staff, you good with that? Sometime this spring?
Yes.
Do we have a
that's good.
meeting on the 20th?
No, the meeting will be canceled.
Okay, let's stay on topic here. So, any other commissioner reports? Okay, moving on. Future agenda items. So we talked about the Maris proposal, and I think that would tie in with the walkabout as well. Any other future agenda items? All right, I think we are adjourned. I love